When you miss a payment, depending on the type that it is, you're impacting a minimum of 35% of your credit score. If you miss a credit card payment, credit cards constitute 30% of your credit score. So you're roughly impacting about 65% of your credit score when you miss a credit card payment, right? So it's not that, oops, one missed payment is no big deal. You're talking 60 to 180 point drop. That is not just a mistake, it is a major setback. And I'm going to help you understand something. That late payment stays on your report for 7 years, unless a company like mine goes after it and is successfully able to remove it based off of an error. Hello everyone, I am Micah Smith and I am back here with another episode of Rebuild and Rise, and we talk about rebuilding your credit, your mindset, and your financial life with zero excuses. And today I actually wanted to talk about something that has been top of mind actually for quite some time. It's not just been a year, it's been a couple of years, and it is why housing affordability is so bad and how to build an actual financial future that works. So this came from an article that I read from Sean Dobson. He's the CEO of Amherst Group. And so we're going to get into it essentially, but I wanted to talk about why is housing so unaffordable? Why does buying a home feel so impossible? And what can you do about it, especially if you are in the process of rebuilding? So we are going to break this down for everyone. And I don't want to just dump facts, but I want to talk about what this means for you, your credit, your payment, your goals, as well as your new year. So listen, here's the truth. The housing market didn't just out of the blue become unaffordable out of nowhere. This has been building for years. So Sean Dobson calls it straight. He said home prices aren't dropping anytime soon because the problem isn't demand, it's actually supply. We don't have enough homes, people aren't selling, and when supply is low, prices stay high. Bottom line is now we are looking at a decade of difficulty for buyers unless the entire system changes. And that means you need to be strategic, not emotional. So what is causing this mess? And I want to break it down extremely clearly. So what happened is the mortgage credit, right, over the years, it's actually gotten a little bit stricter. So not everyone gets approved anymore. Borrowers who qualified 10 years ago can't get through underwriting today, right? Underwriting has gotten stricter and stricter and stricter. And so because, right, the banks have to mitigate their risk of you not paying back the home. On top of that, the rate lock is what's freezing the market. You're seeing that millions of people right now have interest rates between 2 to 4% on their homes, and they are not selling and they are not trading for a 7% rate, right? So that inventory stays low. The other problem is that income isn't keeping up with the housing costs. So prices are going up, but income is not. So essentially now you're not able to buy what you can't afford. The other problem is, and we're seeing this a lot, is you have big investors in the game. They buy fast with cash, and that shifts the market dramatically. So I want you to understand something. As a consumer, this is not your fault, but it is the reality. If you ignore this, this is how you stay stuck. So this is what this means for you as a consumer, okay? Here's what most people miss. Your credit matters now more than ever. Your payment consistency matters more than ever. Your financial habits matter more now than ever. This is literally 25 podcasts all coming to a head. So if you've listened from podcast 1 up until now, right, hopefully you've embedded some of the tools that we've taught you to become more financially literate, more consumer credit literate, right? So, but we're going to recap some of the most important things that you need to be doing to actually get approved, right? Because when buying gets harder, qualifying gets harder. So, let's go through why your daily decisions matter once again. And again, I'm going to continue to repeat myself until you can't stand it anymore. And let's be face it, that's never going to happen because you care about knowing this stuff. You need to be reminded more than you're taught. So rebuilding at this point, guys, is not optional. It is mandatory. It is strategic. So let's talk about something that I teach every single day. I want to talk about the hidden cost of missing payments. This is the stuff that nobody wants to hear, but everybody needs to. When I teach my classes, I talk about the importance of not missing payments, right? So even Sean, the gentleman that I just mentioned, the CEO, right, of Amherst Group, he even mentions what happens when you miss a payment. I want you to understand something. 35% of your credit score is derived from payment history. When you miss a payment, depending on the type that it is, you're impacting a minimum of 35% of your credit score. If you miss a credit card payment, credit cards constitute 30% of your credit score. So you're roughly impacting about 65% of your credit score when you miss a credit card payment, right? So it's not that, oops, one missed payment is no big deal. You're talking 60 to 180 point drop. That is not just a mistake. It is a major setback. And I'm going to help you understand something. That late payment stays on your report for 7 years. Unless a company like mine goes after it and is successfully able to remove it based off of an error, right? Which a lot of times there are errors, but it can be extremely timely and it can be extremely costly. We say an ounce of prevention is worth more than a pound of cure. I want you to understand something. Lenders don't trust inconsistency. If you miss payments, a lender is going to assume you're also going to miss the mortgage payment, right? You have to understand this is how it works, right? So think about it this way. When I teach my classes, I help people try to understand this and I talk about a story. I'm like, listen, if you have an opportunity to lend your friend money, if your best friend wants to borrow money from you and you pull up a copy of their credit report and all of a sudden you see that they just missed 2 payments. Are you going to want to lend them money? Probably not, because you're going to be like, why are you missing payments on your current loans? They're going to be like, oh, well, no, I'm not giving you money because you can't pay your other loans on time. Even if it's your best friend, there's no way, because you're lending someone money and they have an agreement to pay you back by a certain time, right? You're not going to want to lend to them if they're missing payments because let's face it, you don't know if they're just irresponsible. You don't know if they've just decided to stop paying their bills. You don't know if they got into an accident. You don't know if they got sick. You don't know if they lost their job, right? So you have to understand how lenders look at inconsistency, right? I look at these charts and boring graphs like all day, which I love. But essentially, your credit score is determining your likelihood of default. So if you miss payments, you look like someone who's more likely to default. That is why it is a single largest contributor to your credit score. It's not a big deal, right? The entire national average in America dropped because people missed payments on their student loans, right? Because they didn't know that they were due. Right? And so essentially it's us mismanaging what we have and not realizing that the detriment is not small. It is a major, major setback. And I need you to understand something, even if you catch up. So I always ask in my classes, I'm like, okay, how many points do you think your score drops if you have a true 850 and you've got one 30-day late on a credit card? People are like 20, 30, 40, 50. And I'm like, wrong, it's 180. How long does it take you to fully recover? They're like 2 months, 6 months, 5 months. I'm like, no, it's 7 years. It's a full 7-year recovery to get back to that 850. Will you get a chunk of those points back after a certain amount of time? Yeah, but you're not going to fully recover. And if you've listened to my other podcasts about how much credit costs you, it's not a small amount. And this is the problem, is people are like, well, how much does your service cost? And I'm like, it doesn't really matter how much it costs. You're paying about 100 times over what my fee is in interest. Do you know that when you miss a payment, you actually now have to pay a penalty APR? So not only are you paying a higher APR on whatever that loan is, right, for 6 months or longer, right? But now you've got the late fees and everything else. So not only has everything jumped up from an APR standpoint, but now, right, you have a lower credit score, which is going to be attached to everything else that you do. So essentially, the lower the credit, the higher the interest rates. And guys, it's not a small amount. We are talking a significant amount of money. We're talking like on a mortgage, it could be $300 to $600 to $700 to $800 a month. There was one client that we had, by fixing her credit, it was $1,700 a month difference. $1,700 a month. Not to mention, in order to buy down the rate, they were going to have to part ways with $40,000. That is no small amount of money. People do not understand how much money credit scores cost them. So it's really important that we get this buttoned up now more than ever. Lenders are really avoiding people that look risky, right? So understand that high prices, low supply equals cautious lenders. Missing payments, it's going to get you denied. So you have to understand that. It's not going to disqualify you forever. Of course not. You have to understand it's possible to rebuild, it's possible to rectify, it's possible to stabilize. We can certainly try to help you through this, but I will tell you one of the single-handedly most difficult things to remove from a credit report are late payments from open active trade lines. We tell this to people every single day. Do you know how many lenders I have come to me with reports and they're like, can you get these lates removed? And I'm like, probably not. I'm like, was it the bank's fault? And they were like, no. They're like, it was my fault. I'm like, well, then this is going to be a long road because we're going to have to do some serious digging to see if there are any errors here, right, to actually get these things removed. I always give an example. I had one guy that came to me and he had never missed a payment in his life, right? He paid someone to pay his bills, right? And essentially there was a missed mortgage payment and he had like 18 loans to the same lender. He called, asked them to remove it from his credit report. They said, absolutely not. We can't do that. Which, guys, you can't do that anymore. It doesn't exist. Lenders, if you call up a lender and ask them and beg for forgiveness, they really can't do that anymore. They have tightened up their guidelines and criteria so much, they're not going to be able to just remove a late payment from your credit report. It's actually like a violation of the FCRA. So you have to understand that their hands are tied, right? So we have to go in and we have to use the laws to look for any sort of misreporting, see if there's any errors on their side. And there's about 100,000 questions. That might be a little bit of a hyperbole because I live there, but essentially there's so many questions that we can ask them. There's probably a good 50 questions that we can ask, and we're continuously looking for reporting errors, which I will tell you are common. About 80% of the time we're seeing reporting errors and how things are reported, which is how we're able to fight to get these things removed, right? And it's consistency and persistency. Understand if you miss payments, it's very hard for us to get these types of things removed. Not impossible, but it's very difficult. I can't tell you the amount of people that come to us and they're like, oh, it's going to be so easy to fix my credit. All I did is miss a couple of payments. And trying to help people understand the magnitude of the drop in scores coupled with the difficulty of removing these, it's very difficult for us to explain this to people because they just think it's no big deal, which is why I'm here today, because I want to help you understand the importance of making sure that you make your payments on time. It's not a big deal. It's a huge deal. You miss your $15 minimum missed payment with your credit card, right? It's a huge deal. You miss your car loan. It's a huge deal. You miss your mortgage payment. It's a huge deal. You miss your student loan payments. It's a huge deal, right? So you have to understand it's critical that you have to control this. If you can control this, your entire life will change. Consistency. How do you think credit scores are built? Consistency. It takes a lifetime to build, and it takes one bad moment to destroy, which is why it's something that you have to put at the pinnacle of your list to track, to measure, to be on top of every single day. If you are not monitoring your credit, you need to be monitoring your credit. I've told this to you in all of my podcasts and all my classes. Credit Karma, Experian. They're free apps. Get them, download them, monitor your credit. I meet people face to face. You know how many people I meet face to face? I give them this information and they still don't do it because they're afraid of it. You cannot fix something that you avoid. You have to be on top of it. You constantly have to be tracking what is going on in your life. Your credit controls what you are capable of potentially doing, whether it's by buying a home, getting cars, getting finance for things, building a business. It impacts almost every area of your life, including sometimes the type of people you're going to attract into your life. If you have bad credit, someone with good credit is not going to want to date you. I will tell you this, right? My husband and I, we have extremely similar views on money. He has an 840 credit score, right? I've got an 826. We have very similar views when it comes to money. We work really, really well. I could not date someone with a 500 credit score. I would resent them very, very badly because we would not be aligned in our values. And missed payments can take you down faster than anything you could ever possibly dream of. Once it starts, it's very hard to get back on track, especially quickly. So as we are jumping into the new year, I want to be extremely honest. A new year is not a new you. It is not going to change your life, right? Everyone's new year, new me. Like, I'm going to fix my credit. I'm going to be a better version of myself. That's great, but I need you to understand something. Start building better habits now, right? People make goals like, I want to buy a home this year. I want a better credit. I want a financial stability. But goals do not work without structure. So here's what I want everyone to do. This year, I want you to make your number one goal: never miss a payment ever. Just if it happened before, then it can be again. If you've never missed a payment, you're just going to say, I am never going to miss a payment. I know it's not sexy, it's not glamorous, but it is a game changer. Treat credit like building a lifestyle. It is not a project, it's actually who you become. Get really good at being extremely disciplined. Know everything that you have opened, from student loans to credit cards. You know how many people we have this year when you're doing your holiday shopping that open up a credit card with, I already know I'm going to probably get 100 phone calls in the middle of January. People saying, oh, I opened up a credit card in December. I completely forgot. And they sent me a bill and I completely forgot to pay it. And now my credit score has dropped 100 points. Do me a favor. If you open up a credit card, manage it. Make sure you know what you have open and make sure you set it on auto pay at the bare minimum. Do you know how many people forget credit cards that they opened because they wanted to save 30%? And then they're like, oh, I didn't see the bill, or this doesn't. You have to be responsible. That is the number one key, right? I understand people make mistakes, people forget. Obviously, we have an entire business based off of, right, the unfortunate things that happen in people's lives, right? And to help them get back on a better track. But you have to understand, you have to take responsibility for everything that you open. I've heard the thing in the past, credit cards are not free money. I need you to understand this. It is not free money. You have to pay it back. You're given a line of credit, you've got to pay it back, and you've got to pay it back on time. Use it, pay it off. Use it, pay it off, right? Because if you don't pay it off, you're going to pay a significant amount more in interest. Again, we talked about in my prior podcast, right? Your things will own you if you don't own them, right? My things don't own me, right? I own my things. Like, I don't care about them at all, right? I don't live to obtain stuff. Like, that's not how it works. Like, I commit a significant amount of time to do this podcast for free so that I can help people, right, live a better life, right? I make nothing off this podcast, and it's just because I want you to be a better consumer, to have a better life. So face your finances, okay? Open your mail. Stop avoiding it. Stop ignoring the debt. Awareness is the first step towards your power. And I said this in my last podcast, and I'm going to say it again. Think long term. Okay? I want you to stop wanting immediate results. Stop being the person who says, I want what I want, and I want it now, no matter the cost. There's always a cost. And you have to understand the importance of what you are giving up in the future for what you want today. So if you decide, well, I'm going to buy the house now with the terrible credit score, that could cost you potentially millions. That could be your legacy for your children. That could be your children's schooling income. There is so much that we give up tomorrow because we refused to sacrifice today. We have to utilize and understand the importance of delayed gratification. Understand giving up what you want today for a better tomorrow. We have to think about the long game. Before you own a house, you must own your habits. You must own your discipline. You must own your decisions. Ownership is internal before it can become external. So this year, it can be your year to transform, but you have to choose consistency over chaos. I know that people are like, oh my God, it's so boring. Yeah, That's what success looks like. Success is really boring, and you got to get really good at being okay with being really freaking boring, because you're going to be doing all the same stuff over and over and over, and you're going to have to forego going on maybe a couple of really expensive vacations. Maybe you forego, buying new cars and new shoes and new clothes. You know what I did when I needed to get back on track? Guess what? I never ate out. I only shopped at Costco for the things that I absolutely had to have. I made all my meals in bulk. I only shopped at the thrift store. I didn't do my nails. I didn't do my hair. When I was covering my grays, I covered my grays with box dye. Guess what? I looked great. My hairstylist was mortified, but you know what? When I had the money to get it fixed, I got it fixed. No big deal, right? At the end of the day, we don't really need as much as we think, right? Forgo all the little things for a better future. I can now say I have, right, so much more peace because I built a future, right? If, let's say I have a down month in my company, no big deal. I've got more than enough money to cover my payroll for a large amount of time. It's really important that you are ready for whatever life throws at you, because let's be real, life throws some curveballs. People get sick every day. People have major things come their way that they would have never seen coming and that we just don't like talking about. People get in car accidents every day. People have debilitating and awful things happen every single day, and we have to be prepared for them. You need to go back and listen to some of my podcasts that talk about the people who prepared for the rainy day and why that was so important and the things that they faced in their life. And had they not been prepared, they would not be where they are today. You have to prepare. You have to plan on the plan not going according to plan. It's one of my favorite things that I talk about every single day. So let's talk about the things that you can do right now for a better tomorrow. Strengthen your credit. Number one, pay on time. It's the easiest thing to do. It's the most overlooked. People just think no big deal. How bad could it be? I just missed a couple of payments. Well, now you know 60 to 180 points bad. That's a lot, right? Next, lower your credit card utilization, not installment loans. I don't care about your mortgages, your car loans, your personal loans, your student loans. Keep chipping away, chipping away, chipping away. Obviously, if you want to save yourself money on interest, of course, knock those things out, but that will not raise your credit score, right? So keep your utilization super low on your credit cards and you will save yourself a bundle. The other thing is you have to be consistent. Again, understanding, right? 15% of your credit score comes from length of history, how long you've been doing the right thing for, right? So essentially understand that they're coming out with new algorithms now that they've already been implemented, right? And they're called, you have Vantage 4.0 and you have FICO 10T. So T stands for trended. Vantage 4.0 and FICO 10T, they both have trended credit data where they're looking at the last 2 years of history to see what your consumer trends actually look like. So it's really, really critical that as a consumer, you are consistent because they're going to see who you are. They're going to take a look at the last 2 years of history to see who you actually are. So if you're someone with good credit, right, essentially you're going to have better credit. If you're someone with bad credit and poor credit, you're going to have worse credit because they're going to be looking at you as a whole to determine your eligibility for loans. So these new algorithms are actually put in place to push more people through while actually mitigating the bank's risk even more. So you have to understand. And also, one of the biggest things that you have to do is, of course, you have to repair and restore your credit. That is like the single-handedly most difficult thing ever. If you have negative items on your credit report that you have not addressed yet and you have not hired a specialist, I don't understand what you're waiting for. Because if you don't get rid of those negative items, they just sit there for 7 years. And most of the time, they can be removed based off of the laws that govern the creditors as well as the bureaus. Has nothing to do with if you did it, has everything to do with how is it reported, can it be verified, right? That's our job all day, every single day. And we would love to help you with that because that is how we take you from zero to hero, right? Essentially, after, of course, you pay down all the credit cards, that's how you get into those premium tiers. You have to get rid of the past, right? The past negative on the credit report. Again, negative items stay on your credit report for 7 years from the date that they hit, right? So the other thing is you have to be super intentional, right? And I've talked about this multiple times, but you have to save intentionally, right? So you have to take a little bit every single, whether it's week, whether it's month, whether it's bi-weekly, but you need to set something aside for a rainy day. And if you start doing a little bit at a time, it builds momentum. And if you start doing this now, right? So when someone has little, if you can be a good steward over a little, then you will be blessed with more. That's just how life works. If you can't manage a little bit, how are you expected to manage a lot, right? So make it a habit of putting aside a little bit every single month, every single week, whether it's $20, $25, before you know it, you have a rainy day fund, right? And that builds momentum, and those small steps that builds long-term leverage. Now, let's talk about renting. We want to rent strategically while you are rebuilding. Renting is not failure, it is preparation. You want to rent while you prepare for homeownership. You want to stockpile funds, right, as best as you possibly can while you prepare for homeownership. They say the average closing cost for a home in New York, it's $40,000. Those are the average closing costs. So while you're preparing your rainy day fund, your closing costs, your down payment, right? While you're doing that, rent strategically. Live beneath your means. Build systems, okay? This is the next thing. You have to build systems. The same way in my company, right? I have to build systems in order for my company to run successfully. You can't just hope. You can't hope that things are going to work out. You have to know that they're going to work out because you have a system in place. So put everything on auto pay, right? Set up a plan for your spending, right? You got to have a budget. Nobody likes that word. You got to have a budget. It's not sexy, but you got to do it. You can't track what you can't measure. You have to have that emergency fund. Plan on the plan, not going according to plan. Systems beat motivation every single time. It should be set up, right, where when you get your paycheck, there's an amount automatically pulled like right now, that's how my system is set up for my investments. So on the first of every single month, my financial advisor, he takes money out of my account that I have established. I set an amount aside, right, that he takes out of certain accounts, and I say, okay, take this, take this, take this. And it's as though it never even existed, right? I don't even look at it because it's something that I've already set it up. And then I take X amount of money and I invest it, right? It's really critical that you do this without even looking at it, right? My tithing, and this is another podcast for another time, but like the money that I give to charities and the money that I give to the church, that is also set up where it's like, that's just money that's set aside. I don't even look at it because it's not even mine. I just give it away, right? And so everything else is the money that I use to run my business and to live off of, right? Essentially, and that's the importance. You have to have a system in place, right? Where it's not like manual, because it's going to be too easy for you to fall short of your goals if it's not automatic. You just have to have it set up like automatic. And once you start doing it, right, and it just becomes habit, it gets a lot easier. Like you might miss that money at first, maybe, but if you never see it in the first place, you're not going to miss it at all, right? Like that's how my husband's money is set up as well, right? He puts money away. So like he gets his paycheck, right? And he gets what he gets, but money has already been taken for his investments and it's already been set aside. So he gets what he gets and we live off of that. And that's how it should work. So make it automatic where there's less room for error. Because I'm going to tell you something, motivation will lose every single time. If you have systems in place, you're golden, but motivation is going to lose every single time to systems. And just remember, play the long game. You have to be prepared for the future. Most people are not prepared for the future. And whether we like it or not, we have to prepare for tomorrow. I mean, that is the right way to live. The market is going to take potentially years to shift, and we need to be using this time wisely. So I want you to understand, yes, is housing affordability, is it a challenge? Absolutely. But you as a consumer, you have the ability to rebuild and you have the ability to restructure your life. I want you to make this year about clarity, consistency, and I want you to reclaim your control. You don't actually need the market to change. You need to change. And when you do, guess what? Your opportunities will change with you. It's always better to be prepared and not have an opportunity than to have an opportunity and not be prepared. And this is why we always say about your credit, it's best to not fix your credit when you need your credit. You need to fix it beforehand. It should always be ready and waiting for you to use it when you need it. This is going to be your year to rebuild. This is going to be your year to rise. Your year to become unstoppable. All right, let's go get it. Listen, guys, this has been a great podcast, a great year, and you should be going into 2026 super pumped, super motivated, with all the tools in your back pocket to be successful. That is a wrap for today's podcast. If you enjoyed today's podcast, please like it, please subscribe, and please leave us a review. Reviews help us so much. If you'd like to continue hearing more content like this, I really need your help with the like, the subscribe, and the reviews. And please share this with someone that you think would benefit from hearing this podcast. If you were inspired by this today, I just want to say thank you so much for being here. I am Micah Smith, your host of Rebuild and Rise. I hope you had a great 2025. Can't wait to see what happens in 2026. Let's make this next year better than ever.